Security guards of Reddit, what is the weirdest thing you've seen through a surveillance camera? I once saw a guy try to push open a pool door and smack his head on the glass. He then looked around to make sure no one saw. I saw you, guy, and I laughed at you. I volunteered working at a jail once. A guy jumped off his bunk and broke his ankle so bad that it looked like a lesson from the front. He passed out from the pain. I passed out looking at it. I worked security at a casino and a children's mental hospital, not at the same time. At the hospital the best was a parent wailing on a psychiatrist's car with a bat because they didn't like that he pointed out their anger management issues. At the casino I saw the guy shovel $80,000 worth of chips into his underpants when the dealer turned her back. I saw 3 casino floor waitresses go to a storeroom behind a bar pulling their tops down and comparing breast sizes and feeling each other for bounciness. Apparently one of them just got implants and they were comparing them to the real thing. This went on for over 5 minutes, then they pulled their tops back up and went to work like it was nothing. Worked 5 years in security at various locations in good parts of the city to itty parts, from government regulated facilities to a factory. Weirdest I seen was probably the random ducking chimpanzee that was walking down the street around 3 AM outside my yard shack. I live in Iowa. It was the first time I've seen a chimp outside a zoo. I called the police station that was down the street and went back to watching movies. Never did hear what happened from that, but I learned I shouldn't ask too many questions. I'm not dying for 9.50 an hour. This was in Cedar Rapids. I worked at a hotel and we had a group of college kids come ask us if we had security footage of the pool area between 3 to 5 AM. They were all excited about it, so we pulled it up. They had put something in the lock on the pool door so they could get in later. We didn't care because they were checking out anyways. But at around 3 AM, you see them sneaking, and about 30 minutes later they started a drunken belly flop competition and wanted us to tell them who won. One of them did about 5 perfect belly flops in a row. I am talking no fear. Grade A belly flops. We told him that he won and he raised his hands up in celebration. Got a funny look on his face and ran outside to puke. I have yet to see a more perfect belly flop, yet alone 5 of them. I am not a security guard, but when I moved into the building I live in, we have a channel on the TV that lets you see the security cameras in the building. There are 9 of them in little squares. One is in the laundry room. I was here about a week and decided to check out the security channel out of curiosity. In the laundry room, I could see what looked like a man standing behind a woman who was bent over the sink. He was really giving it to her. I could see him moving a lot and floppy hair in front of him. I was shocked. What kind of place did I just move into? Should I take off my pants? Then something happened. The man moved out of the way. The long floppy hair was attached to a very thin neck. Then it hit me. This was not some man ducking the it out of a woman after all. It was someone trying to unclog the drain with the handle end of a mop. I still finished. I work in IT, but I'd have to say that watching myself fall is always good for a chuckle. I used to be a security guard in Kuwait. Let's just say the Kuwaiti National Guards did not know they were being supervised. One of the guards had their feet up in the window of his guard booth. So I sent out a supervisor to wake him up. Turns out the guard's relief had shown up early and was giving him head. The supervisor walked in on them mid-act. But don't worry, the guards insisted they weren't gay. I love the Middle East. I worked in a museum and had the head of security show me one of his guys, a supervisor, doing his best to hop over the admissions desk. The guy didn't get enough air and landed squarely on the glass of the admissions desk. It shattered around him. It was pretty fantastic. Even better, it wasn't a move that he was pulling for some sort of security related obligation, but it was after hours and he was trying to impress a new hire. Edit, I didn't grammar good. I'm not a security guard, but I do have to review my hotel security footage occasionally. One time there was a fight reported in the halls, so I reviewed the security footage to see what happened. This huge guy threw this girl to the ground and booted her in the head. She sat there for a minute, then got up and followed him to the room. They had already checked out when I reviewed this footage, so I couldn't get rid of him. What I did do was hand the tape over to the police with his name and address. Not a security guard, but I work as a sleep technician and we use cameras for every study. Saw a 75-year-old man wake up in the middle of the night, rip the covers off to expose his raging hard-on and furiously jack off like it was the last boner he would ever have. I spoke to him over the speakerphone in the room and told him this study was being video monitored, and he replied that at his age, "You'd waste one." I turned the monitor off and let him finish. Didn't speak a word of it in the morning when I had to unhook all the wires. My father is responsible for a handful of factories scattered around the country. He got a call one day from the security officer to come up for some advice. Apparently there is a high school nearby and a couple from the school were screwing behind a large pile of munch that was on the factory property. While watching the live feed, Dad called the school and told them the situation. He watched while the principal interrupted them. He says that he's never seen anyone put on pants so quickly in his life. Edit. Spelling. Edit 2. Remade spelling mistake as per requests. Every security department saves some of the best clips or clips that might be needed to use in future court dates or to protect them. Best clip I ever saw was a fight take place in a Walmart parking lot. Started with two women arguing and that quickly escalated into a full-blown catfight. That wasn't the interesting part. Their two male friends started getting into it. One pulls a tire iron out of the back of his truck. The second quickly goes to his car and pulls out a golf club. They start acting like two gorillas, showing how tough they can be. The one with the tire iron starts swinging it around above his head when it slips out of his hand and hits a kid who was walking by with his parents. By coincidence, the cops show up at the exact same time. They were pretty brutal stopping that fight. Security. I saw someone fall down on an ice patch and drop a Pyrex dish once. Security cams are pretty boring. Most of the time we just replay any physical confrontations we'd get into. Doing a stroll through the parking lot of a factory I was a guard at once. Noticed some commotion in a vehicle. So I shined my flashlight into the window. Busted Manager A with Manager B's wife. It was slightly awkward. I saw a dude go into a women's bathroom late at night. He was in there for at least half an hour and this was at a college, so I went to see if he did anything. I go in to find blown up condoms on all the faucets. It made me giggle, so I left them. Buddy of mine was working mall security. They got a call to the nail salon. Black lady ran up a big bill and said her husband, Lionel Richie, would pay for it. Yes, that one. Buddy has no training whatsoever and decides to cuff the 300+ pound black lady. Gets one on and she starts screaming and slinging him around. He won't let go, so she bolts, dragging him along with her. The constable on duty was laughing so hard he was no help. They showed me the tape over and over and now use it as how not to do things for new hires. Retail security here, and I've seen some it. The single weirdest thing was probably when a naked guy on PCP was being chased by police. He broke through the thick window glass on the driver's side of a Mercedes to evade capture. The officer said he didn't even flinch when he got tasered. I do a lot of theft research at my store, and while I was reviewing video for those gel bra stuffer things, I noticed that every single woman would check their bust size when they walked past. Not live, but I once saw video of a security guy at another store beating off in his office. I copied this from another thread I posted in. I worked in a prison as a guard and we recorded the video using our cameras there. So this guy was working video monitoring at around 9 PM. When he saw something moving out in a nearby cornfield, he pans the camera and zooms in on it, and sees a black dog thing walking through the cornfield. Then as he is about to pan the camera back to its original spot, the thing stands up on its two hind legs and sprints across the cornfield towards the tree line. I called BS, but since the video monitoring saves all its feed for 30 days, I was able to watch it during training with the guy. The vast majority of the time it's all boring stuff, but two things stand out while reviewing pub footage. More gross than weird. 1. Saw a woman in a short dress shimmy over to the end of the bench seat she was sitting on, hang half her ass over the edge, pull aside her underwear and it on the floor, all the while sipping her drink and talking with her friends. She stayed there for around 20 minutes before moving on. 2. Another lady one night was performing oral sex on a male patron in a back corner. Stopped suddenly, vomit, wipe her mouth off and then continue to perform oral sex. We would usually check our cameras when we found vomit or blood in the bar area in the hope we could identifying who it came from and stop them at the door the next time they tried coming in. A woman spanking her own bottom while making horse noises and kicking her legs back. We had to put her down. Not a security guard, but I can only imagine what the person who went through this footage was thinking. Go to assert dominance somehow, right? Around midnight, drunk dude walks into an alley behind a building, sleeps for 20 minutes, wakes up, staggers around, stops and stares at a door, runs at door head first and knocks himself out, wakes up, tries unsuccessfully to open the door, pulls doorknob off, throws the doorknob at it, then walks away. Not a guard, but when I was in high school, working at a grocery store, I got called in to watch a video at loss prevention. It was a co-worker of mine who walked down a whole aisle, looked around, jammed his hand up and down his ass crack, then sniffed it and went on like nothing happened. He didn't know he was on CCTV. Current security guard here. Saw a sphere-like UFO hover above cars in the parking lot, then flew around trees, over the field, then to the back of the building. Minutes after, I saw another sphere-like object on the internal camera floating upstairs and out of view. I was freaked the duck out. The week after, I reviewed the footage again and realized the first sphere-like object was a balloon and the second one was a dust particle. I was freaked out because I watched an alien documentary just before that occurred. Not a security guard, but my father owns a self-service car wash strip mall in a shitty part of Las Vegas. We had CCTV cameras to make sure people weren't vandalizing or stealing it. I've seen a lot of prostitutes ducking clients in the car bays and homeless face first in our trash searching for it. It was pretty active at night. Craziest shit I've seen was a meth head druggie ducking the car vacuum's hose. It was pretty surreal. So yeah, that happened. We had the cameras on for like 2 months before they were, ironically, stolen. Work at an art gallery. One summer they had an outdoor installation called Gumhead. It was a large bust of the artist that exhibit belonged to. People were, of course, encouraged to stick their used gum to it, and by the end of the exhibit, it was absolutely covered in chewed, rained on, heated up and had birds sit on it. One night I'm sitting in the security room when I noticed a guy pacing around the bust. I zoomed in on him to find that he was picking the gum off the bust and shoveling it into his mouth. I'll never ducking forget that one. I'm too tired to make something up, but it definitely happened. Would have it be the mid-50s guy who was completely naked and covered head to toe in tattoos doing helicopter spins with his D for a solid 5 minutes. Worked at a coffee shop, but through our CCTV we watch a bloke have explosive diarrhea right outside the front of our store. This was in the middle of the night. He wiped his hands on the walls then walked away like nothing happened. Story from a friend who worked as a security guard. Their post was behind a one-way mirror. When you entered the facility you'd see a long mirror on the wall and not know there were people behind it. One day a job applicant arrived. She paused at the mirror to check for lipstick stains on her teeth, then reached into her V-neck top and adjusted her headlights to make sure they were evenly distributed. The guys behind the mirror nearly choked laughing silently. She ended up not working there, so clearly the guards had no influence in HR. Local furry convention came into town. I was searching through cameras when I came upon a supposedly unused convention room. Inside was a man in his underwear wearing a dog mask. Around him were about 8 other individuals who were also dressed as various animals. The other animals began to throw what appeared to treats into the underwear guy's mouth, who by the way now has started to act like a dog. This went on for quite some time as each member of the group took their turn acting like their animal as the others threw threats into their mouths. I used to work for a company that did security for a university, but the university also had their own police, University of Toronto Campus Community Police. While working at a residence at night, one of the security cameras picked up someone going into a small stairwell to do some drugs. As per our instructions, we called the U of T police to deal with the situation. When the U of T police arrived, we were following them with the security camera and watched them start going down the stairs. Suddenly, the camera turned and looked away, looking onto the street. Even though I had not used the controls to do that, I turned to my supervisor, who explained that the U of T police had remote control of the cameras and they had did that. When the cops came back up, the person they arrested looked like he was beaten severely. He did not look like that previously. When I asked around later, the report said he fell down the stairs. A man opened his trunk, pulled out his pocket pussy and went to town. The open trunk blocked his view as guards approached the vehicle, so he was all in when they made eye contact. Edit. Grammar. I work at a school district and was doing camera maintenance. Passed by a camera with someone flipping it off while she was giving some guy a handjob in a stairwell. I called the campus cop and told him. His response was, "I know. This dirty little ducker was watching it on his monitor." Worked night security at a hotel. So much ducking in elevators. If you are going to do that, it is easiest to just go doggy on the floor. The hot porn way is to brace her back against the wall, then reach down and lift one leg up at the knee, then the other. If you can get her knees situated in the crook of your elbow, it is really hot, but you have to be pretty fit to pull it off. For a while, I worked a second job as a security officer in a pish ward. One cold, unassuming night, I glanced over the screens and discovered a very large and combative female patient try to jack off with a TV remote attached to her bed. Needless to say, that was an interesting radio transpondence. I felt so bad for the nursing staff that night, and the housekeeper in charge of cleaning the room, including the remote. I don't have terribly cool stores, but earlier this year I saw a guy headed into a dumpster area across the property. I head on out there and confront him, and the dude was just bumming through the trash. As I have my light on him, he pulls a perfectly intact Sega Genesis out of the dumpster. For about 10 minutes I forgot that I was supposed to make him leave because we were both so flabbergasted as to why someone would throw a perfectly good Genesis out in the dumpster of a vegan grill. I let him keep it at least. Not a security guard, but job at an ice rink required camera review occasionally. Was during a youth hockey match, plus 12-year-olds. During a line change, one kid's skate managed to catch another's neck and the resulting blood spew made the stand full of parents immediately go nutterbutters. I've never seen anyone react so quickly as this coach. Had a towel in his hand already and lunged for the kid. The child did survive, as the local station was maybe 500 feet down the road. Moral: don't panic and always carry a towel. I don't know where these other security guards work, but the most interesting thing that happens around the factory I watch over at night is a spider has made a home in one of our camera housings. She likes to wave her arm around the lens of the camera and it looks like she's stomping on cars in the parking lot. Then she'll come out to eat every once in a while. That and the ghost in the IT room that keeps shutting off the lights in the hallway right across from the IT room. Every once in a while at night the IT room door will open a little bit. Then the lights will shut off in the hall. Jerks always send me to turn it back on. Not security, but I worked at a storage center and we had about 20 cameras and I've seen some stuff. The one lady we had was so disgusting. Always smelled like garbage and literal it. Well, one hungover Sunday I look up at the camera and see her casually walking down the hallway, it pouring out of her ass. Another time, I come in at 8 on a Sunday and there is an old RV taking up all the spots in our parking lot. Looked like Walt's RV from Breaking Bad. The door was open and the inside was full of porn VHS, dirty underwear and worn out baby dolls. When me and the cops went to check the tapes, we see this guy in his mid-40s pull up frantically in the RV at 4 AM, slam on his brakes, and take off into the woods in a full sprint. He was wearing a suit. We never found who it was. Found a pic of said RV from the story from the outside.